Your ghetto passport probably fake anyway. Let me fix that for you. Brad Wilson's lighter sparked. Flames devoured the burgundy pages in his grip. Vanessa Thompson's official document curled black. The gate agent held it higher, grinning at the crowd gathering around gate B23. Phones lifted. Cameras rolled. See what happens when you people try to scam first class? The ashes scattered across polished floor. Security Officer Johnson watched from behind the counter, arms crossed, enjoying the show. Vanessa stood frozen. Gray hoodie, worn backpack, quiet dignity crumbling with each flickering ember. She looked exactly like what Brad expected. Some college kid trying to fly above her station. Passengers whispered. Some filmed. Others turned away. The last fragments fell. Atlantic Airways' Friday rush hour crowd had their entertainment. Hundreds witnessed the humiliation. The burnt smell lingered in recycled airport air. Have you ever watched someone destroy your dignity while authority figures just stood there and smiled? The discrimination started 20 minutes earlier. Vanessa approached the Atlantic Airways counter with her boarding pass. First class seat 2A Detroit departure at 6:47 p.m. Brad Wilson looked up from his computer screen. His eyes swept from her hoodie to her scuffed sneakers. The smile faded. Ticket and ID, please. She handed over both documents. Brad examined her passport like a detective studying evidence. He flipped pages slowly, held it up to the light, squinted at the photo. This doesn't look right. His voice carried across the gate area. How'd you afford first class anyway? Drug money? Passengers in nearby seats turned. A businessman in a navy suit shook his head. A mother with twin toddlers whispered to her husband. The ticket's valid, Vanessa said quietly. Purchased yesterday with a corporate credit card. Brad's fingers drummed the counter. Corporate? What company hires people like you for business travel? The question hung in the air. Phones emerged from pockets. Fingers swiped to camera mode. At Live from a TL started streaming on Instagram. The caption read, Racist gate agent going off at Atlanta airport. Viewers climbed past 50. Vanessa pulled out her wallet. Inside, a government ID caught the overhead lights. The Federal Eagle emblem remained partially visible. I need additional verification, Brad announced. Caroline, code yellow at gate B23. Caroline Davis strode over in her airport manager blazer. She didn't look at Vanessa, didn't ask questions, just crossed her arms and nodded at Brad. What's the problem? Suspicious passenger, fake documentation, claims she bought first class. Brad's voice grew louder with each word. The live stream viewer count hit 200. Comments flooded the screen. This is insane. Where's a supervisor? Get this man's name. Caroline studied Vanessa's passport. Her expression suggested she'd already decided the outcome. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step aside. We have legitimate passengers to process. I am a legitimate passenger. Vanessa's voice stayed level, professional. This is discrimination based on appearance. Don't play the race card, Brad snapped. We follow protocols here. An elderly white woman in line spoke up. She has a ticket. What's the issue? Brad ignored her. He grabbed his desk phone and dialed airport security. We need officers at gate B23. Threatening passenger situation. Vanessa hadn't threatened anyone. She'd barely raised her voice. But Brad's performance convinced the gathering crowd that something dangerous was unfolding. Her phone buzzed. The caller ID read FAA HQ. She let it go to voicemail. 3 more calls followed in quick succession, all from the same number. The businessman in the navy suit started his own recording. His TikTok account had 40,000 followers. This content would reach far beyond Atlanta International. This is wrong, he muttered to his camera. Completely wrong. Caroline stepped closer to Vanessa. Ma'am, you need to leave the gate area immediately. I'm not leaving. I have a valid ticket for this flight. Your attitude is becoming disruptive." The irony wasn't lost on the growing crowd. Vanessa spoke in calm, measured tones while Brad and Caroline created the actual disruption. Security Officer Johnson appeared. 2 additional officers flanked him. All 3 wore the serious expressions of professionals responding to a genuine threat. "What's the situation?" Johnson asked. Brad pointed at Vanessa like she was holding a weapon. "Fraudulent documentation, possible identity theft. She's claiming corporate travel but won't provide legitimate employment verification." Vanessa reached into her laptop bag. The TSA pre-check priority tags caught the light. Government-issued credentials for expedited security screening. She pulled out her phone and made a single call. "This is Thompson," she said quietly. "We have a situation at Atlanta International, Gate B-23, Atlantic Airways." The conversation lasted 30 seconds. Vanessa's tone never changed. Professional, measured, final. The live stream viewer count reached 800. Hashtag Atlanta Airport Racism started trending in Georgia. Local news stations received viewer tips about the developing story. Assignment editors dispatched camera crews. Brad sensed the attention shifting. His confidence wavered for the first time. "Security will escort you out," Caroline declared. "Atlantic Airways doesn't tolerate disruptive passengers." "I understand," Vanessa replied. "But you should know, I'm not the disruptive one here." She opened her laptop bag wider. Inside, official documentation rested in clear plastic sleeves, federal agency letterhead, credentials with holographic seals. The 3 security officers noticed her calm demeanor, her professional bearing, the quality of her seemingly simple belongings. Something didn't match Brad's narrative. Officer Johnson stepped closer. "Ma'am, can you show me some additional identification?" Vanessa smiled for the first time since approaching the counter. "I'd be happy to, Officer Johnson, but first, I want everyone to understand exactly what they're witnessing here." The crowd pressed closer. Cameras zoomed in. The live stream audience hit 1,000 viewers. Brad's face flushed red. "She's stalling." "This is exactly what criminals do." Caroline nodded vigorously. "Remove her immediately." Vanessa's fingers moved to her laptop keyboard. She connected to a secured network that required federal clearance. The screen displayed a login page most people never see. "Actually," she said quietly, "I think we should call Atlantic Airways headquarters first." Her voice carried new weight. The security officers hesitated. Brad grabbed for her laptop. "You don't get to make demands here." Vanessa pulled the device away smoothly. "Mr. Wilson, I strongly advise against interfering with federal equipment." The word federal hit the crowd like electricity. Phones lifted higher. The live stream exploded with comments. Everything was about to change. The word federal rippled through Gate B-23 like a shockwave. Officer Johnson's radio crackled. "All units, we have a code yellow, escalating to possible federal involvement." Brad's confidence cracked. "Federal? She's lying. Look at her." But Caroline had worked airport management for 12 years. She recognized the shift in atmosphere, the quality of Vanessa's equipment, the calm authority in her voice. "Ma'am," Caroline said carefully, "perhaps we can resolve this quietly." Too late for quiet. Vanessa's laptop screen glowed with official seals and classified networks. "You made this public." The live stream audience had exploded to 3,000 viewers. At Live from a TL couldn't keep up with the comment flood. "Federal agent? Plot twist incoming. Brad about to get fired. This is insane." A CNN news van pulled up to the terminal entrance. WSB-TV followed 30 seconds later. Social media had done its work. Brad grabbed the gate microphone. His voice boomed across the concourse. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a security situation at Gate B-23. Please remain calm while we handle this threatening passenger." The announcement backfired spectacularly. Instead of dispersing, more people gathered. Business travelers, families, airport employees. Everyone wanted to witness the drama. Vanessa remained seated, typing on her laptop with practiced efficiency. Each keystroke accessed systems most people didn't know existed. Threatening? A teenage girl with pink hair laughed. She's just sitting there. Her grandmother nodded. That gate agent's the problem. Officer Johnson received another radio transmission. This one made him pause. Control, can you repeat that? Federal Aviation Administration requesting immediate supervisor to Gate B-23, Priority 1. Johnson's expression changed. Priority 1 meant real federal business, not some college kid with fake documents. Caroline stepped away from the crowd. Her phone rang 3 times before Atlantic Airways headquarters answered. This is Caroline Davis, Atlanta International. We have a situation that requires immediate legal consultation. Meanwhile, the businessman with 40,000 TikTok followers had captured everything. His video already had 50,000 views and climbing. Y'all seeing this? He whispered to his camera. Gate agent just called a federal officer threatening for sitting quietly with a laptop. The teenage girl started her own stream. Guys, this is about to be legendary. Brad realized he was losing control. The crowd sympathized with Vanessa. Security hesitated to act. His supervisor was taking too long to respond. She's manipulating you, he shouted. This is what they do! Create chaos and play victim. The words hung in the air like toxic smoke. Several passengers pulled out phones to record Brad's meltdown. Vanessa looked up from her laptop. Mr. Wilson, I suggest you stop talking. Don't tell me what to do. I run this gate. Actually, Vanessa said quietly, you don't. Her fingers moved across the keyboard. The screen displayed Atlantic Airways operational certificates, real-time flight data, safety compliance records. Officer Johnson's radio erupted with activity. All units, federal supervision en route. Cease aggressive action until arrival. Control, did someone call the feds? Negative. Federal officer is already on scene. Johnson looked at Vanessa with new understanding. She wasn't the subject of the investigation. She was conducting it. Caroline returned from her phone call, face pale. Brad, we need to speak privately. I'm not leaving. She's creating a disturbance. The irony was complete. Brad shouted while Vanessa worked silently. He demanded attention while she commanded respect. The live stream audience reached 5,000. Number sign Atlanta Airport racism trended nationally. News outlets began reporting preliminary details. Atlantic Airways' stock price dropped 2% in after-hours trading. Vanessa's phone buzzed with a text from FAA headquarters. Situation acknowledged. Full authority confirmed. Proceed as planned. She closed the laptop and stood slowly. The crowd quieted, sensing a turning point. Officer Johnson, she said clearly, I need to speak with airport operations immediately. Ma'am, I think that can be arranged. Brad stepped between them. She's not going anywhere until we verify her identity. That's enough, Caroline snapped. Brad, step back. But Brad had committed too far to retreat. His reputation, his authority, his entire worldview depended on being right about Vanessa. I know her type, he declared to the cameras. They come in here thinking they own the place. The crowd recoiled. Even his supporters winced at the naked prejudice. Vanessa opened her laptop again. This time, she turned the screen toward the gathering audience. The Federal Aviation Administration logo filled the display. Official credentials with her photo, inspector identification number, Federal Law Enforcement Authority. The crowd gasped collectively. At Live from a TL's stream exploded. She's FAA! She's federal! Comments flooded faster than anyone could read. Plot twist. Brad is so fired. This is better than Netflix. Federal inspector just got racially profiled. Brad stared at the screen. His mouth opened and closed without sound. Caroline grabbed his arm. Office, now! She can't be. Look at her. Officer Johnson stepped forward. Sir, you need to calm down. She's lying. It's fake. Someone check that screen. 3 airport security supervisors arrived. Behind them, 2 men in dark suits walked with federal authority. Vanessa smiled at Brad for the first time. Mr. Wilson, you've just interfered with an active federal inspection. That's a felony under 18 U.S.C. 111. The suits approached the gate. One flashed FBI credentials. The other carried FAA documentation. Inspector Thompson, the FBI agent said formally, we received your alert. The crowd erupted. Phones captured every angle. The live stream audience hit 8,000. Brad's world collapsed in real time. Caroline tried pulling him away, but he stood frozen, staring at Vanessa's credentials. Federal inspection, he whispered. Surprise audit of Atlantic Airways operational compliance, Vanessa confirmed. You just destroyed federal identification during an active investigation. The weight of his actions crashed down. Assault on a federal officer, destruction of government property, interference with official duties, all caught on camera, all witnessed by thousands, all career-ending. Vanessa closed her laptop slowly. The FBI agent and FAA supervisor waited respectfully as she gathered her equipment. Agent Morrison, she addressed the FBI representative, please document Mr. Wilson's statement claiming federal credentials are fake. Morrison's pen moved across his notepad. Recorded, Inspector Thompson. Brad's legs buckled. Caroline caught his arm before he collapsed completely. This isn't real, he mumbled. She's a kid. She's... Chief Inspector Thompson, the FAA supervisor corrected. She oversees airline safety compliance for the entire southeastern region. The words hit like hammer blows. Chief Inspector, Southeastern Region. Federal authority over every major airline from Miami to Atlanta to Charlotte. Vanessa opened her laptop one final time. The screen displayed her true scope of power. Federal Aviation Administration, Inspector General Division. Chief Inspector, Vanessa L. Thompson. Badge 7294-Alpha clearance level. Critical infrastructure. Authority. Airline operations nationwide. The crowd pressed closer to see. Phones zoomed in on the official documentation. 23 airlines under my oversight, Vanessa said calmly. 87 airports. 200,000 daily passengers. She scrolled through Atlantic Airways' complete operational file. Current safety violations, 23 active cases pending investigations, 8 discrimination complaints. Compliance rating, 67%. Failure. Annual revenue, $2.3 billion. Federal penalty exposure, $50 million minimum. Brad stared at the numbers. His airline was failing federal oversight. His behavior had just made everything exponentially worse. The burnt passport, Vanessa continued, was diplomatic-level clearance for international safety inspections. Agent Morrison stepped closer to Brad. Destruction of federal identification is a felony. 5 years minimum. Caroline tried damage control. Inspector Thompson, surely we can discuss this privately. Privacy ended when Mr. Wilson made this a public spectacle. Vanessa gestured toward the cameras. 12,000 people are watching live. CNN has a crew outside. This is beyond private conversation. The teenage girl with pink hair whispered to her stream, "Y'all, she just destroyed this man's entire existence." Her viewer count had hit 15,000. The comments scrolled too fast to read. Queen Energy. Federal power activated. Brad choosing unemployment. This is iconic. Vanessa stood and faced the crowd directly. I want everyone to understand what you witnessed here. Federal law enforcement conducting routine safety oversight. An airline employee responded with racial profiling, document destruction, and false accusations. Her voice carried across the concourse. Professional, authoritative, devastating. Mr. Wilson assumed my appearance invalidated my authority. He destroyed federal credentials based solely on prejudice. Brad tried to speak. I didn't know. You don't look like... Like what, Mr. Wilson? The question hung in the air. Every camera focused on his response. Like a federal inspector. And what should a federal inspector look like? Brad's mouth opened and closed. Any answer would confirm his bias. His silence confirmed it anyway. Vanessa pulled out her phone and dialed Atlantic Airways headquarters directly. This is Chief Inspector Thompson, FAA. I need to speak with CEO Rebecca Anderson immediately. The call connected within 30 seconds. Ms. Anderson, I'm conducting a surprise safety inspection at Atlanta International. Your employee, Brad Wilson, just committed multiple federal crimes while interfering with official duties. She put the call on speaker. Anderson's voice filled the gate area. Inspector Thompson, I sincerely apologize. Please tell me how we can resolve this situation. Your employee destroyed my diplomatic passport and filed false reports claiming I was a security threat. This occurred during an active investigation into Atlantic Airways safety compliance failures. Silence on the line. Anderson understood the implications immediately. What are our options? Full cooperation with my investigation, immediate termination of Mr. Wilson, public accountability for discriminatory practices, or I recommend operational shutdown pending comprehensive federal review. The crowd gasped. Operational shutdown meant no flights, no revenue, bankruptcy potential. Brad grabbed the phone from Vanessa's hand. Ms. Anderson, she's lying. I was following protocol. Agent Morrison moved swiftly. Sir, you just interfered with federal communications. Brad released the phone like it was on fire. Anderson's voice returned. Inspector Thompson, you have our complete cooperation. Mr. Wilson is terminated effective immediately. Fired, Brad whispered. You can't fire me. I've worked here 12 years. Security, Anderson continued over the speaker. Please escort Mr. Wilson from the premises. Caroline stepped away from Brad like he carried a contagious disease. Vanessa's phone buzzed with notifications. Her supervisor from FAA headquarters. Inspector Thompson, CNN is requesting statement. Washington Post wants interview. Congressional Oversight Committee asking for briefing. The story had exploded beyond social media. Federal inspector racially profiled during safety inspection. The narrative was already writing itself. Tell Congress I'll brief them Monday, Vanessa replied. Full documentation of Atlantic Airways compliance failures and discriminatory practices. Brad's world crumbled in real time. Fired. Federal charges pending. Industry blacklisted. Viral video evidence ensuring he'd never work aviation again. But Vanessa wasn't finished. She opened her laptop one last time. A new screen appeared. Internal Atlantic Airways safety reports spanning 3 years. Mr. Wilson, your discrimination isn't isolated. I have documentation of systematic bias affecting passenger safety protocols. The data scrolled past. Passenger complaints by demographics. Safety incident response times by race. Boarding delays correlating with passenger appearance. Crew assignments based on unconscious bias. This inspection was planned months ago, Vanessa revealed. Atlantic Airways failed 14 safety protocols last quarter. Your behavior today simply confirmed our worst assessments. The crowd understood the magnitude. This wasn't random discrimination. It was evidence of institutional failure affecting flight safety. Officer Johnson's radio crackled. All units, federal crime scene protocols now in effect. Preserve all video evidence. The live stream audience reached 20,000. Number sign Federal Inspector burned trended globally. Atlantic Airways stock dropped another 4%. Vanessa packed her laptop calmly. Agent Morrison, please coordinate with Atlanta PD for Mr. Wilson's arrest. Wait! Brad stumbled forward. I can fix this. I'll apologize. I'll do whatever you want. Vanessa faced him one final time. Mr. Wilson, you can't fix federal crimes. You can't apologize away systematic discrimination. And you definitely can't undo burning a federal inspector's diplomatic passport on live television. She shouldered her backpack and walked toward the jetway. Oh, and Brad? She turned back with a slight smile. I was never trying to board this flight. I was investigating your gate operations. The final twist hit like lightning. Brad collapsed into a nearby chair, head in his hands. The investigation had been successful beyond Vanessa's wildest expectations. The emergency helicopter landed on Atlantic Airways' private helipad 37 minutes after Vanessa's revelation. CEO Rebecca Anderson emerged in a Navy power suit, flanked by 3 attorneys and the airline's crisis management team. Vanessa waited in the airport's executive conference room. Her laptop displayed Atlantic Airways' complete operational profile in devastating detail. Anderson burst through the conference room doors. Inspector Thompson, what will it take to resolve this situation? Accountability, Vanessa replied without looking up from her screen. Complete transparency, systematic reform. The legal team spread documents across the conference table, liability assessments, settlement proposals, damage control strategies. We can offer compensation, Anderson began. This isn't about money. Vanessa turned her laptop screen toward the corporate delegation. This is about safety compliance and civil rights violations. The data painted a catastrophic picture. Safety infractions, 23 active cases, FAA penalties. Outstanding, $12.7 million, discrimination, complaints. 47 filed, 3 resolved customer safety incidents, 156 last quarter, federal compliance rating 67%, critical failure. Anderson's face paled as she read the numbers. Our annual revenue is $2.3 billion, Vanessa continued. You control 12% of domestic flight operations. 47,000 employees depend on this airline. She scrolled to the legal violations. 18 U.S.C. 111, Assault on Federal Officer Title 7. Civil Rights Act, Discriminatory Treatment 49, CFR, 1542.15. Interference with federal inspection. 18 U.S.C. 1361, Destruction of government property. Maximum penalty exposure exceeds $50 million, the head attorney whispered to Anderson. That's before civil rights lawsuits. Vanessa opened another screen. Real-time social media metrics. Hashtag Atlanta Airport. Racism, 2.3 million mentions. Video views across platforms. 8.7 million news outlets covering story. 247 nationally stock price impact, minus 6.2% in 2 hours. Your brand reputation is collapsing, Vanessa observed. Travelers are already switching airlines. Boeing called asking about your safety protocols. The Department of Transportation wants a full audit. Anderson's crisis manager leaned forward. What do you want? Vanessa closed the laptop and faced the corporate team directly. Option 1. Full compliance with federal oversight. Immediate systemic reforms. Public accountability for discriminatory practices. 24 months of FAA monitoring. She paused for effect. Option 2. I recommend operational shutdown pending comprehensive safety review. Criminal charges proceed without corporate cooperation. Congressional hearings investigate airline industry discrimination. The room fell silent. Option 2 meant corporate death. Anderson's phone buzzed continuously. Board members demanding answers. Investors threatening lawsuits. Pilots' union requesting emergency meetings. The 24-month monitoring, Anderson asked carefully. What would that involve? Vanessa reopened her laptop and displayed a comprehensive reform package. Bias training for all 47,000 employees, real-time discrimination monitoring system, quarterly diversity audits by independent firms, $2 million, civil rights settlement fund, federal inspector access without advance notice, public reporting of compliance metrics. You'll install monitoring software at every gate, Vanessa explained. Customer complaints trigger automatic federal review. Discrimination patterns result in immediate personnel action. The legal team huddled, whispering urgently about liability exposure. Anderson's phone rang. The caller ID read, White House Transportation Office. She declined the call. Inspector Thompson, these requirements seem excessive. Vanessa pulled up Atlantic Airways' profit margins. Quarterly profit, $180 million. Executive compensation, $47 million annually. Compliance cost, $15 million over 24 months. Shutdown cost, $2.3 billion. Revenue loss, $15 million to maintain operational status, Vanessa said, or lose everything to federal shutdown. The mathematics were brutal but clear. Anderson's crisis manager showed her a tablet displaying Twitter trends. Number sign Boycott Atlantic was gaining momentum. Passengers were filming themselves canceling Atlantic Airways reservations. "We need to stop the bleeding," he whispered. Vanessa stood and walked to the conference room's floor-to-ceiling windows. Atlanta's skyline stretched beyond the tarmac. "Ms. Anderson, your employee burned federal credentials on live television. He filed false police reports about a federal inspector. This happened because your company culture enables discrimination." She turned back to face the corporate team. 47 complaints weren't accidents. They were warnings you ignored. Anderson's phone buzzed with a text from the board chairman. "Fix this immediately." Full authority granted. "What about Mr. Wilson's criminal charges?" "Federal prosecutors will proceed independently," Vanessa confirmed. "Corporate cooperation doesn't eliminate individual accountability." The head attorney grimaced. Wilson would face federal charges regardless of any settlement. "And the media attention?" "Truth resonates," Vanessa said simply. 12 million people watched your employees' prejudice in real time. You can't control that narrative. Anderson realized she had no leverage, no negotiating position, no alternatives. "If we accept your terms, will you recommend against operational shutdown?" "I'll recommend probationary status with intensive oversight." Vanessa returned to her seat. 24 months to prove systematic change is possible. The legal team exchanged glances. Probationary status meant survival. Operational shutdown meant bankruptcy. Anderson's phone displayed 17 missed calls from board members. "We need a public statement," the crisis manager urged. "Stock market closes in 90 minutes. Vanessa opened a new document on her laptop. Atlantic Airways acknowledges serious civil rights violations occurred today at Atlanta International Airport. We accept full responsibility for discriminatory practices and commit to comprehensive reform under federal oversight. Effective immediately. Employee Brad Wilson has been terminated. Chief Inspector Thompson has our complete cooperation. Federal monitoring begins across all operations. $2 million allocated for civil rights initiatives. Zero-tolerance policy for discrimination implemented. We failed our passengers today. We will earn back their trust through demonstrated change, not empty promises. Anderson read the statement twice. It was corporate suicide. It was also the only path forward. "If we sign this, you'll support probationary status?" "If you implement every compliance measure and maintain perfect federal oversight cooperation for 24 months. The attorneys whispered frantically about liability exposure. Civil rights lawyers would use this statement in countless lawsuits. But operational shutdown would cost more than any settlement. Anderson reached for her pen. "One modification," she said. "We announce this jointly with your office. Federal inspector and corporate CEO standing together for accountability." Vanessa considered the proposal. Joint announcement would demonstrate federal authority while giving Atlantic Airways credibility for reform efforts. "Agreed, but we announce the criminal charges against Mr. Wilson simultaneously." "Understood." Anderson signed the compliance agreement. 47,000 jobs preserved. Operational status maintained. Corporate reputation destroyed, but salvageable. Vanessa packed her laptop as Anderson's team coordinated the press conference. Inspector Thompson, Anderson said quietly, how long have you been planning this investigation? 18 months, Vanessa replied. Your discrimination complaints created a pattern. Today confirmed our worst assessments about institutional bias affecting passenger safety. She shouldered her backpack. Ms. Anderson, your employees' prejudice nearly shut down a major airline. Let that sink in. The corporate showdown was over. Systematic change was just beginning. The joint press conference aired live across every major network. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, and BBC carried the unprecedented moment. A federal inspector and airline CEO announcing accountability together. Vanessa stood at the podium in her gray hoodie. Anderson wore her corporate armor. The contrast was intentional. Today's incident represents institutional failure, Vanessa began. Atlantic Airways will demonstrate that discrimination has consequences. Within 4 hours, the consequences cascaded through every level of the company. Brad Wilson sat in federal custody, charged with 4 felonies. His mugshot circulated online alongside the video of him burning Vanessa's passport. No airline would ever hire him again. Caroline Davis received suspension without pay pending internal investigation. 12 years of management experience couldn't overcome her complicity in federal crimes. Officer Johnson faced written reprimand and mandatory bias training. His union couldn't protect him from federal oversight of his discriminatory response. But individual accountability was just the beginning. Atlantic Airways Board approved emergency funding for comprehensive reform. The numbers were staggering. $2 million Civil Rights Settlement Fund established $8 million invested in monitoring technology, $3 million for company-wide bias training, $2 million for independent oversight audits. The Fair Flight mobile app launched within 6 weeks. Passengers could report discrimination incidents directly to federal authorities. Real-time GPS tracking connected complaints to specific employees and locations. Every Atlantic Airways gate installed bias monitoring systems. Cameras with AI analysis detected discriminatory language patterns. Microphones recorded interactions for federal review. Algorithms flagged suspicious behavior for immediate supervisor intervention. The technology worked. Within 30 days, the system identified 17 employees exhibiting discriminatory patterns. All received mandatory retraining. 3 faced termination for repeated violations. Customer complaints dropped 68% in the first quarter. Delta Airlines announced voluntary bias training before Congress mandated it. United implemented their own discrimination monitoring system. Southwest partnered with civil rights organizations for policy review. The entire aviation industry watched Atlantic Airways' transformation. Success meant survival. Failure meant federal shutdown. Vanessa's Thompson Protocol became standard training for federal inspectors facing discrimination. Document everything. Stay calm. Use institutional power strategically. The Harvard Business Review published a case study. When hidden authority meets public prejudice, strategic justice in action. Requests poured in for Vanessa to speak at conferences, corporate diversity seminars, congressional oversight hearings, TED Talk invitations. She declined most requests. The work mattered more than the recognition. The House Transportation Committee scheduled emergency hearings on aviation industry discrimination. Vanessa testified for 4 hours, presenting data on systematic bias affecting passenger safety. Discrimination isn't just morally wrong, she told Congress. It's operationally dangerous. Employees who profile passengers also cut corners on safety protocols. Committee members from both parties demanded immediate federal oversight of all major airlines. The resulting legislation was unprecedented. Mandatory bias monitoring at all commercial airports. Federal inspector protection from discriminatory treatment. Real-time complaint reporting systems. Financial penalties for systematic discrimination. Annual diversity audits by independent organizations. President Biden signed the legislation 6 months after Vanessa's passport burned at Gate B-23. Vanessa received promotion to regional director, overseeing transportation bias prevention across the southeastern United States. Her jurisdiction expanded beyond aviation to include maritime, railway, and highway transportation systems. Her office became a model for strategic justice. Use documentation, not confrontation. Leverage institutions, not emotions. Create systematic change, not viral moments. The approach worked consistently. Atlantic Airways' transformation was quantifiable. 12-month results. Discrimination complaints, down 71%. Customer satisfaction, up 34%. Federal safety rating, improved to 94%. Employee bias incidents, down 82%. Stock price recovery, plus 15% from crisis low. The company's diversity initiatives won industry awards. Anderson personally presented Vanessa with Atlantic Airways' highest civilian honor. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The employee they tried to humiliate became the catalyst for their greatest operational improvement. Broader impact. Other industries studied Atlantic Airways' model. Retail chains implemented bias monitoring systems. Hotels adopted discrimination reporting apps. Restaurants trained staff on implicit bias recognition. The Atlanta airport incident became a business school case study in crisis management and systematic reform. More importantly, it proved that individual acts of prejudice could trigger institutional transformation when properly leveraged. Brad served 18 months in federal prison. Upon release, he worked at a small auto parts store in rural Georgia. His aviation career was permanently over. Local news interviewed him 1 year later. "I destroyed my life over skin color," he admitted. 15 seconds of stupidity cost me everything. The interview went viral again, not for vindication, but as a warning about the permanent consequences of public discrimination. Caroline lost her management position, but avoided criminal charges. She completed bias training and accepted a customer service role with 40% reduced salary. Her cooperation with the federal investigation prevented worse consequences. She testified against discriminatory practices she had previously ignored. The humiliation was complete but not destructive. She kept her job and learned from her failures. 2 years after the incident, Vanessa returned to Gate B-23. Atlantic Airways had installed a memorial plaque recognizing the importance of civil rights in transportation safety. The gate operated differently now. Employees treated passengers with consistent respect. Monitoring systems ensured accountability. Federal oversight maintained standards. A young black woman approached the gate counter with her boarding pass. The agent smiled genuinely, processed her documentation efficiently, and wished her a pleasant flight. No drama, no discrimination, no need for federal intervention, just professional service regardless of passenger appearance. Vanessa watched the interaction from a distance. This was success. Not the viral video or the media attention or the congressional testimony. This quiet moment of equal treatment was the victory. Vanessa had achieved something remarkable. Systematic change through strategic patience rather than emotional reaction. Her calm response to Brad's aggression had transformed an entire industry's approach to bias prevention. No violence, no lawsuits, no vengeful pursuit of individuals. Just institutional power properly applied to create lasting reform. The burned passport had ignited meaningful change affecting millions of travelers. Prejudice had accidentally triggered progress. Justice had prevailed through intelligence, not anger. The system worked when people knew how to work the system. Vanessa smiled as she walked away from Gate B-23. The transformation was complete. 3 years later, Vanessa Thompson's story became required reading in federal law enforcement training. The Atlanta Airport Protocol was taught at the FBI Academy, FAA headquarters, and Department of Transportation facilities nationwide. The lesson was simple. Strategic patience defeats public prejudice. Atlantic Airways became the gold standard for airline diversity and inclusion. Their discrimination monitoring system was licensed to 17 other airlines. Customer satisfaction ratings reached industry highs. Brad Wilson's mugshot remained the top Google image result for airport discrimination. His 15 seconds of hatred created a permanent digital monument to the consequences of prejudice. But Vanessa's legacy was more profound. She proved that quiet authority could achieve what loud confrontation never could. Systematic change through institutional leverage. Progress through patience rather than provocation. The approach transformed how marginalized professionals responded to workplace discrimination across every industry. Vanessa never sought revenge against Brad Wilson. She sought reform of the system that enabled his behavior. She didn't demand individual punishment. She required institutional accountability. She didn't pursue viral fame. She pursued lasting change affecting millions of travelers. Her dignity under pressure became a masterclass in strategic thinking over emotional reaction. The burned passport incident taught a generation that hidden power, properly revealed, could move mountains. The Aviation Civil Rights Act of 2025 prevented thousands of discrimination incidents. Real-time reporting systems caught bias before it escalated. Federal oversight ensured consistent enforcement. Airport discrimination complaints dropped 73% industry-wide within 2 years. Vanessa's approach inspired similar reforms in healthcare, retail, hospitality, and education sectors. Professional women of color studied her tactical patience, how she documented everything, how she stayed calm under pressure, how she used institutional authority to create systematic change. The Thompson method became a framework for turning individual prejudice into organizational reform. 5 federal inspectors faced similar discrimination in the 2 years following Vanessa's incident. All used her protocol: document, stay calm, reveal authority strategically, demand systematic change. All achieved lasting reforms in their respective industries. The pattern was clear. Hidden authority, properly deployed, could transform institutional bias into institutional accountability. Vanessa serves as Assistant Secretary of Transportation for Civil Rights Enforcement. She oversees bias prevention across aviation, maritime, rail, and highway systems nationwide. Atlantic Airways operates as the most diverse airline in America. CEO Rebecca Anderson credits Vanessa's investigation with saving the company's reputation and operational excellence. Brad Wilson works night security at a Georgia warehouse. He completed anger management and bias training during his federal imprisonment. Local journalists still contact him annually for "Where Are They Now" stories. He always declines interviews. Caroline Davis returned to management after 2 years of exemplary customer service. She leads Atlantic Airways' bias prevention training program. Officer Johnson became a trainer for airport security bias recognition. His experience at Gate B-23 helps other officers avoid similar mistakes. The system worked. People learned. Change happened. Vanessa's story proves that discrimination dies in the sunlight of accountability, not through anger or confrontation or viral revenge, through strategic patience, institutional leverage, and systematic reform. Her calm response to Brad's hatred transformed an industry. Quiet power proved stronger than loud prejudice. Intelligence defeated ignorance. Justice prevailed through institutional authority rather than individual anger. The burned passport became a symbol of how hidden power, properly revealed, creates lasting change. Have you witnessed discrimination in airports, workplaces, or public spaces? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience matters. Your voice creates accountability. Tag 3 friends who need to see how strategic thinking defeats public prejudice. Show them that quiet authority beats loud confrontation every time. Subscribe for more stories proving that systematic change trumps viral moments. That institutional power properly used creates lasting progress. Which moment in Vanessa's story shocked you most? The passport burning? The federal reveal? Brad's complete meltdown? Tell us in the comments. Let's discuss how to turn individual prejudice into systematic progress. Because the next time someone underestimates your authority, you'll know exactly how to respond. Strategically, calmly, effectively, just like Inspector Vanessa Thompson taught us all.